I've had so much fun doing these live videos. I used to hate doing live videos when I first started. And now that I do them all the time, it's like something that I love. So first of all, I'm not going to be doing live videos for the next couple of weeks, at least not here, because I am doing a free workshop that's going to be on Facebook. So if you haven't signed up for it, you need to go sign up for it. You can sign up for it at infjwoman.com/hereforthis. And we're going to talk about all kinds of fun things. How to have more confidence, how to have more self-love, how to stop worrying about the things that people say to you, or the things that people have told you forever. Maybe that little voice in your head that tells you that you're not enough and that you can't do the things that you want to do. We're going to talk about how to get past all of that, how to step into who you really are, who you want to be, and how to have confidence in that, and to just really stop worrying about what other people say. Today, we're going to talk about overthinking, because a lot of people ask me about how do you stop overthinking. There is this thing with INFJs that's called the ni-ti loop. And I'm going to explain what that is, because if you're not really familiar with functions, then it probably sounds really weird. So INFJs have a function called introverted intuition. That is ni. It's N-I, right? We also have another function that's called introverted thinking. That's the T, T-I. And what happens is we get into this loop because our intuition is telling us that we need to do something. I'll give you a perfect example. Ever since I can remember, I've loved to read books. And every time I would get to the end of a really, really good book, I would get this really powerful urge, like this voice in my head telling me, you need to start writing. You should be a writer. That would be like super awesome. I would love to write something like this, right? So that's like your intuition saying, hey, you need to do this thing. This is what you were made to do. You need to go do it. But then the thinking function in my head would be like, nah, you're not really good at writing. You're terrible at spelling. And you could never write a book like this. It's partly like the common sense thing that's in your head, but then it's partly like your ego. And your ego is anything that runs through your mind that's like, I am, or I am not. Like, I'm not a good speller. I'm not a good writer. All of these things, these statements that you tell yourself, because what your ego does is it protects you from getting hurt. And so if you've ever had something that's happened to you, like everybody has had, something that happened to you probably before you even remember. Maybe when you were in grade school, if you were like me, you got terrible grades on spelling tests. And you did really poorly in English, right? And so your ego is like, I want to protect you from that pain. I don't want people to tell you that you're terrible at writing, because that's really bad pain and you don't need to feel that again. So your ego is like, we're not going to do that because I remember the pain and I'm going to protect you from that, right? But your ego is also a little bit misdirected, because just because there was pain in the past doesn't mean that there will be pain right now. So what happens is you get into this loop, right? So your intuition is saying, you should do this thing. And your ego is saying, oh, no, you don't need to do that thing. Like, what if? What if you get hurt? What if somebody tells you that you're terrible at writing? What if somebody laughs at you? What if somebody sends you a direct message that says, oh my God, I can't believe you wrote that thing. You're so stupid. Wouldn't that be painful? Yeah, of course it would be painful, right? So you just keep thinking, and you just keep thinking and keep thinking and keep thinking, right? Like, I want to be a writer, but I can't be a writer, but I want to be a writer, and I can't be a writer, but I want to be a writer, and I can't be a writer. And it's like you drive yourself insane because you can't figure out how to get out of that loop, right? Here's the thing. Here's the secret sauce of how you actually get out of that loop. You have to make a decision. You have to make a decision. So you either decide, yes, I'm going to be a writer. I don't care if people think I'm terrible. I don't care if somebody calls me stupid. I don't care if somebody says, oh my God, I can't believe you wrote that. You should never write anything ever again. It doesn't matter. Somebody out there is going to love what I write. Somebody out there is going to say, I'm a better person because you wrote that thing. Somebody out there is going to say, I'm inspired because even though you suck at spelling, you're still putting yourself out there and you're writing, and that's awesome. Or you're going to make that decision, or you're going to say, I'm not going to be a writer. I'm going to go do something else. But in order to get out of the loop, you have to decide. You have to make a decision, right? So once you make a decision, if you're like me, you're like, you know what? I've been thinking about this for like 20 years. I need to write. I need to be a writer. I need to at least try it and see how it works. You make a decision, and then you get all the back talk from your ego, right? Like, this isn't going to work. I don't know what you're doing. It's going to hurt. People are going to call you crazy. People are going to say nasty things about you. The way to stop that is to make it the right decision, right? So you made a decision, and now you have to make it the right decision. You have to commit to the decision that you make, right? You have to say, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if people say nasty things about me. It doesn't matter if I can't spell words. It doesn't matter if the only comments on my blog are, oh my God, you misspelled half the words. It doesn't matter, because you're not going to get better until you actually put yourself out there and start doing it. So that's how you stop overthinking. I know it sounds really simple, but it's really not that simple in practice. It takes a lot of practice because it takes a lot to get past your ego. It takes a lot of confidence to say it doesn't matter. It takes a lot of practice. Really, it does. It took me about 10 years to be able to do it. I was thinking about writing when I was young, so probably more than 20 years ago. That makes me sound old, doesn't it? But I started multiple blogs before I started INFJ Woman because I would get scared. I would get like a little bit of confidence. Like, you know, they say you have to have 20 seconds of confidence. So I would get like 20 seconds of confidence, and I would like pour my heart out into a blog post, and then I would post it on like a free blog that didn't even have its own domain name. And I would sit there and watch it and like, why is nobody reading it? It must not be good. It must be terrible. And I could never get past that point, right? And so like less than an hour later, I would take it down and delete it because then it was like, oh, what if somebody does read it? I don't want them reading it. Like, what if they read my thoughts and feelings? Oh, that would be awful, right? So you can't decide which is worse. Like, what if nobody reads it, or what if somebody actually does read it? It's a whole nother loop that you get into as a writer and a creator. It's like, I don't know which one is worse. How I got past it though is I finally decided it doesn't matter if anybody reads it. It doesn't matter if people make negative comments about it. All that matters is that I want to help people. I know that I'm supposed to do this, and I want to help people. I want to share the information that I have, so that if there's somebody out there who's just learning that they're an INFJ, then they'll know that there are other people out there who feel the same way, who have the same personality type, who are going through the same things, who have been told the same things about themselves. I want to help. And if I can just help one person, then it doesn't matter how many negative comments I get. It doesn't matter how many people say, oh my God, you spelled that word wrong. All that matters is that I'm helping people. And I mean, that was how I got past it. It was like, okay, I made a decision. I'm going to be a writer. Doesn't matter if it's terrible. And I made it the right decision. And I said, you know what? I'm committed to this regardless of what other people think. And there were still, I mean, even though I was committed, every time I went to hit post on a new blog post, there was like some hesitation. There was like, should I read it again? And then what happened was I quit proofreading my blogs. You may be able to tell because there are probably words that are misspelled. I own that, every bit of that. But I did that because what would happen is I would write it and then I would go back and read it and I would start second guessing myself and questioning everything that I wrote. And then it was like, I can't post this. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna cut that out right here. And what we're gonna do is not proofread it. I do have a couple of different apps that I use that are supposed to help with spelling, but they don't always catch everything. But I mean, that's how it is. I've heard other people talk about how they have proofreaders and they have like 3 or 4 people who proofread stuff. And I'm like, I don't know how you do that. Maybe after you've been writing for like multiple years. I mean, I've been writing for 3 years now. And I'm still, when I send stuff to people, because I've put together a few things that I've had to send to people. And when I send stuff to people, I like hold my breath. Like, I don't say anything that's like too bad. Because if it's too critical, I'm going to cry and I may back out of this, you know? But I think a part of it too is owning that sensitivity and realizing that, that you are sensitive about it. And that's okay. That's part of being an INFJ as well, is, you know, it's actually a good thing that we have so many feelings and that we're so sensitive. And that can play a part in the overthinking as well. You know, it's a process. It's a process learning how to deal with other people being critical of you. It's one thing to do it in person when, you know, it's your parents or your siblings or your friends or your boss or a teacher or professor. It's one thing to deal with those people because they know you, at least to some extent, and they're coming to you hopefully in a positive way and saying, hey, you should work on this. This could be better. But it's a whole other thing when there are people on social media who are random people that you have never met, who are sending you direct messages and making comments on your social media that's like, you're a terrible person. And you're like, you don't even know me. How do you know that I'm a terrible person? You know, that's always my first reaction is like, you know, they send me these comments that say, you're such a liar. And I'm like, how do you know if I'm lying? Like, did you even watch my video? Because the comment that you made was about the 3-word caption on the top of the video, which really didn't have a lot to do with the whole video. So obviously you didn't watch the video. You're just commenting some random thing. And it takes a lot of practice and it takes a lot of confidence and knowing who you are and being confident in yourself and the message that you're sharing in order to just let those comments go. In the past, I would have never done that. If somebody would have commented something like that, I would have been like, okay, I'm done. I'm never going to share another picture of myself. I'm never going to share my opinion because obviously my opinion is wrong because one person disagreed with it. And it's not true that your opinion is wrong just because one person disagrees with it. You know, you think about how many people there are in the world. There are like close to 8 billion people in the world. It's not like everybody agrees with all of, even the popular people, not everybody agrees with all of their opinions, right? Just because they're popular doesn't mean that everything that they say is that everybody believes that. One of the things that's great about the time that we live in right now is there's an opportunity for everybody to share their opinion. And one of the things that I love about being in the United States is that we're free to share our opinion. You know, there's nobody saying you can't say that. And it doesn't matter whether your opinion is popular or not. You can share it. There's a place for you, whether it's Instagram or Facebook or YouTube, or there's so many new social media platforms popping up too. There's a place for everybody. And I think a lot of us too get stuck in this scarcity mindset, right? That just because some people have blogs and they're very popular and a lot of people read them, then I can't have a blog because there's not room enough for me. I can't be a writer because hundreds of other people have been writers. You know, I can't sell a lot of books because Gabby Bernstein sells millions of books, and so why would people buy my book? And it's kind of like, it's a whole shift that you have to make in your head, because we usually grow up with this scarcity mindset of like, there's not enough. I'm sure that if you're like me, your parents told you things like, don't eat too much, save some for everybody else. We don't have enough money. We're not, like, we can't buy that because I don't have money. And whether it was just like an excuse because you wanted a toy that you didn't need, or you wanted ice cream again and they were like, no, that's too expensive, we're not going there. You get stuck in this habit of there's not enough for me. And a lot of us have this idea too that I'm not enough too. So like, why would people read my blog? Because people read everybody else's blog. But also, why would they read my blog? Because I'm not enough. That's a whole other work in confidence, that you have to believe that you're enough, right? And then you have to believe, you have to switch that scarcity mindset into a mindset of abundance, of there is enough for me. There are millions of videos on YouTube, but that means that there are people watching all of those videos, right? Because they wouldn't be there if there weren't people watching them. And that means that there's an audience enough for me too. When I started my Instagram account, I was like, maybe there will be 100 people who follow me on Instagram. Maybe. I mean, that would be really cool if there was. Maybe if I'm like super lucky, I'll find 1,000 people who will follow me. And within like a month, there was 1,000 people who followed me. And I was like, what? What just happened here? But I know that what happened is, for one, there's like 1 billion people that use Instagram. I think it's pretty close to that number. So that's one. Another thing that happened is there are a lot more INFJs than what we give everybody credit for, right? Even if, I mean, depending on what stats you look at, some people say we're 1% of the population and some people say we're 3% of the population. But even 1% of 8 billion people, that's a lot of people, you know? So there's still enough of an audience out there if you're only looking at INFJs. And the followers that I have now, like 61,000 on Instagram, I think almost 12,000 on Facebook. That's not even close to the number of INFJs that there are in the world. There's room enough. You know, there are people out there who want to hear the message that you have. And I strongly feel that if your intuition is telling you that you should do something, then you should start taking steps to do that thing. And it's kind of like build it and they will come, for two different reasons. One, because if you don't build your blog or your Instagram account or your YouTube channel, whatever it is that you want to build, if you don't build it, then people aren't going to come, right? They're not gonna show up. They're not gonna show up and ask you to build something that they didn't even know that they needed. And the second piece of it is that if you start, even if you don't feel like you're enough right now, if you just get started, if you just have that 20 seconds of courage to get started, the more that you do, the more practice that you have, the more confidence that you'll get, the more courage that you have, the easier that it will get. Nowadays, I don't really have a lot of fear or anxiety when I post a new blog post. I'm confident in the message that I have, and I'm a lot more confident in who I am as a person too. And it's okay if there are people out there who don't agree with it. It's okay if there are people who write comments on it that aren't so nice. It's like, that's cool. I know how to delete your comments and I'm not afraid to delete them. And I mean, there's a lot of other things too. Like when I first started my podcast, I was terrified to just start talking. Like, what am I going to talk about? I don't know what to talk about. I need to have every single word written out so that I know exactly what to say. And now that I'm 80 episodes into my podcast, it's a whole lot easier just to turn on not only the microphone, but the video camera and start talking. And it's the same with Instagram and Facebook, like, you know, like live videos. I'm sure that if you go back and watch some of the old ones, you'll see they're not that great. I mean, I have a lot of anxiety, and have even been people who have commented while I was live, you know, talking about something, going, "You sound like you're very anxious. Like, you need to take a breath because it sounds bad." I'm like, yes, I know. I have a lot of anxiety, and I was hoping that you wouldn't notice, but I see that you did. And so, you know, in the past, it was difficult for me to deal with. It's like, ugh, I don't want to do a live video. What if somebody makes a comment like that? And it just makes me even more anxious. But now it's like, it's not that big of a deal. It's like, okay, what do you want to talk about today? Somebody throw out a subject and we'll talk about it. I don't need tons and tons of notes. We can make it work. So, yes. I wanted to help you guys with that, because a lot of people ask me about overthinking, and I know that it can be a really big problem. If you don't have a strategy to get around it, it can be really difficult. And a lot of people run into overthinking when it comes to college. I know that I had this problem in college, and I wish that I would have known this strategy back then. But here's the thing, I'll tell you another secret. 99 times out of 100, it doesn't matter what decision that you make. It doesn't. I spent 10 years in college. I have 2 college degrees and 3/4 of another college degree. And I've never really used any of them. I mean, I have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. I've never worked in criminal justice. I decided before I even finished the degree that I wasn't going to work in criminal justice. But I was too far down the road. You know, I spoke to a school counselor, and she was like, you might as well just finish it, because, you know, if you want a different degree, it's going to take another 2 years in order for you to get a different degree. So I have used that degree, as in I've put it on my resume, and people have hired me because I have a bachelor's degree, but I've never done anything in the criminal justice world. I have 3/4 of a mechanical engineering degree, and the only thing that I've ever used that for is in the past. I used to throw it out there in conversations just to prove that I was smart, which I've realized that it doesn't really prove that I'm smart. It just proves that I'm kind of annoying when I talk about it a lot, and that's totally fine. I decided that I wasn't going to do that when I got a job in marketing. And I've worked in digital marketing for 10 years. And, you know, I didn't really learn a whole lot about that in college. I have a minor in marketing that went with my bachelor's degree, but I think I only took like 2 or 3 marketing classes. And marketing has changed so much in let's see, when did I graduate? Graduated in 2010, so marketing has changed so much in 11 years since I've graduated that most of what I learned in school doesn't apply to marketing now. I didn't learn about Instagram. I wasn't even on Instagram until 2011, so a year after I graduated from college. So Instagram wasn't the same, Facebook wasn't the same, YouTube wasn't the same. You know, most of what we do in marketing now revolves around social media and email marketing, and they weren't teaching that in college back then. So you never know. I mean, the point is that like, it really doesn't matter what decision that you make. You'll figure it out as you go. And all that matters is that you make a decision, so you get out of that indecision torture. as INFJs, we like to narrow things down to one decision. We are most comfortable when we've made the decision and we can start the planning process. So if you're feeling tortured about a decision, the best thing that you can do is make a decision. Because like I said, it usually doesn't matter what the decision is, as long as you're making a decision. If you are having trouble making a decision and you want some more support, you want to learn more about confidence, you need to join my workshops. They are starting next week. I can't believe it's next week already. It's called This Is Me. You can sign up at infjwoman.com/thisisme. They are absolutely free. There's 5 of them next week. They're all going to be at noon Eastern time, which is the same time that I'm doing these live videos. They will also be available for replay if you can't join at that time. So yes, please go sign up. You can find the link at infjwoman.com. The exact link is infjwoman.com/hereforthis. And yeah, I'm so excited. We're going to talk, I'm going to tell you one more time. We're going to talk about breaking the habit of being you. That's day 1. The next day, we're going to talk about how to, who were you before you were told who to be? How to figure that out. Day 3, we're talking about energy. Day 4, we're talking about abundance, stepping out of scarcity and into abundance. And day 4, we're talking about how to be happy on a daily basis. So many of us aren't taught that. I was taught that a lot of people are just miserable and you have to deal with being miserable. And I was taught a few coping mechanisms around being miserable, but I wasn't really taught how to be happy. And my life is so much better since I learned how to be happy. It seems like such a simple thing, right? Like, shouldn't you know how to be happy, right? Not everybody does. Not everybody does. So again, infjwoman.com/hereforthis, and I will see you guys all on Monday. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate all of your support. So you just watched that video, and I'm sure you enjoyed it. If you want some more amazing information about INFJs, check out these videos right now. I'll see you there.